Well, as you've probably already heard, the Supreme Court issued a huge ruling regarding the Biden administration's vaccine mandate. This affects every business and organization in the country with more than 100 employees. Ed Vitagliano with Abraham Hamilton III. Abe, you're our constitutional attorney here. Tell us a little bit initially about what the Supreme Court has decided.
Yes, as you mentioned, the Biden administration, through OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, imposed a mandate on all private employers with over 100 employees, basically requiring those employees to be vaccinated with the injections, the publicly available injections, or for those who have not been injected, to be tested weekly at the private employer's own expense. Well, when that mandate was originally issued, we at the American Family Association filed a lawsuit in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. Our friends at First Liberty with Kelly Shackelford represented us in that litigation. When we filed that lawsuit along with several other plaintiffs, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals agreed with our position, which was the executive branch of the federal government does not have the authority to force private employers to intervene in their staff's healthcare decisions. That's an overreach and an unconstitutional abuse of executive power and a governmental overreach. Well, procedurally, because the mandate came through OSHA, the cases, because you had a lawsuit filed in each circuit around the country, the cases were consolidated into one case. It was subject to a case lottery system, which caused it to land in the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. The Biden administration then says, well, Sixth Circuit, since we're now here, why don't you guys overturn the Fifth Circuit's decision, which the Sixth Circuit did. So we, along with many other plaintiffs, immediately filed an emergency appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the U.S. Supreme Court said we would hear that appeal. Well, now, today is the day where the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that it agrees with us and the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in concluding that this is an unconstitutional abuse of executive power and an unconstitutional and illegal overreach by the Biden administration. So as it stands today and going forward, the Biden administration has been stayed, which means they're prohibited from forcing private employers to basically do their dirty work.
Well, I read recently a Wall Street Journal article that, or opinion piece, that said that what the Biden administration had done with this vaccine mandate, and of course we're talking about COVID, was unprecedented. Do you agree with that assessment, that what the Biden administration had done, trying to force private employers to do this, was unprecedented?
I absolutely agree with it, and the Supreme Court agreed with it. In their opinion, they highlighted the fact that OSHA has never been used to do anything like this ever in the history of its existence. And so that it was, in the court's opinion, very telling concerning the limits on the power that OSHA, in fact, does have. And so it caused them to conclude that, as I stated earlier, that this was an unconstitutional overreach and abuse of power by the Biden administration.
Well, and there'll be a lot of questions about this Supreme Court decision to come, and we will cover that. But one final question, because around here at AFA, of course, we were involved in this. We were concerned about the Biden overreach. But some of the questions that have arisen boil down to this one. This Supreme Court ruling does not affect the freedom of businesses to mandate that for their own employers, for their own employees. They can still force their employees to get the vaccine. This is just about the Biden administration. Am I correct on that?
That's right. The Supreme Court's decision in this case is one that prohibits the government, the federal government, from forcing private employers to impose a particular vaccine and a testing regimen. It does not compel private employers to make a decision one way or another. So if private employers make a decision on their own, that would be within their own purview. But what this decision stands to communicate is that the Biden administration, through its executive apparatus, they do not have the authority to compel private employers to do their will.
Okay. Thank you, Abe. Folks, we are going to be following this, as a lot of people will, as these kinds of battles move forward in private businesses. When you're an employee and you have an employer, those may be battles you'll have to fight separately to this. But we'll continue to do our best to keep you informed from a Christian perspective, and thank you for joining us.